let's call the second presenter for the day, Mr. Agung Andiojaya from RMIT University, who will present a paper about presentation about the impact of government social welfare spending to income inequality reduction in Indonesia.
Hello guys, it's a big pleasure for me because I'm not as English as Mr. Chris, so very nervous right now. But it's okay. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak to you about my research tonight. And in this presentation, I'd like to present my study, which examines the impact of government social welfare spending on the income inequality in Indonesia by using descriptive analysis and panel data modeling to get a better understanding of the cluster program effect. Okay, we all know that one of the government's roles is to regulate the country's resources in promoting equality. How? One way is through budgeting. Related to government budgeting, there are 6 functions. The first is reallocation of resources, and the second is reducing inequality in wealth and income, reducing regional disparities to achieve economic growth, maintaining economic stability, and managing public enterprises. In this study, we want to more closely examine the budgeting functions that are aimed to reducing inequality. Generally speaking, there are 2 ways to achieve this. The first is by collecting the tax, and the second is by redistributing the tax to the poor through social assistance programs. The idea behind this is to pull down the rich and to promote the poor, so that the gap between them becomes smaller. The existing literature on the effect of government social spending on inequality shows that there are 2 different points of view. The first is that there is a negative correlation between government social spending and inequality, which is to say that more spending on social government promote income equality, whereas the other point of view is that there is no proof of such a relationship, and that means government social spending has no significant impact on equality. Now let's look at the government social expenditure in Indonesia. For Indonesia context, the role of government social expenditure is to distribute country wealth to the population having social risk potential. What we need to build in this line is social risk potential. And according to the Ministry of Home Affairs, social risk is defined as the condition of vulnerable society that are easily to fall into hardship when an unfavorable state occurs within an economic cycle. In line with this regulation, Ministry of Finance Act number 80 on 2012 amplifies 6 goals of government social welfare to give benefit for the beneficiaries as social safety net towards social risk and capacity upgrade for poor society. On the implementation level, through government regulation number 45 of year 2013, social assistance programs is classified into 3 categories: consumptive, productive, and institutional. Wait, sorry, there's a problem here. For strengthening and focusing the social expenditure distribution through decree of the President of the Republic of Indonesia number 15, 2010, National Team for the Acceleration of Poverty Reduction was established. We recognize it as the NP2K. This introduction. Next. The institution has responsibility to establish the coordination across sectors and stakeholders at the central level to accelerate the poverty reduction. To achieve this, TNP2K categorized the social assistance program into 3 clusters. The cluster 1 is for programs targeting household or family. The cluster 2 for programs targeting communities, and cluster 3 for programs targeting micro and small businesses. As soon as this team was established, the first thing to do is to make unified database, or we know as basis data terpadu. So, if in the previous year, every social program from government using different data for determining the population target. Now, after this database was built, all social-based program use this database. For this point forward, for my study, to categorize this government spending, I will use this cluster. So it will be divided into 3 clusters. The social program for household, social program for communities, and social program for micro and small businesses. Next. There are 2 research questions, of course. This is research. The first is there a relationship between government social expenditure allocation in their budgeting towards income inequality? And then the second is, if we break it down to the cluster program, which cluster has the better impact towards inequality? In this graph, I just want to show you that there is high disparity between province in Indonesia in terms of Gini ratio. And if we classify based on the west part of Indonesia, central part of Indonesia, and the eastern part of Indonesia, it is very heterogeneous here. And this kind of data characteristic is very important to build the panel data analysis, because it assumes the heterogeneity of the data later. Next, even though for the local government budget, it is the very high disparity here. And as we know here, maybe most of the higher income provinces are located in the Java Island. Okay, next. It is the methodology I used in my research. So, to analyze the relationship between the variable, first, I use descriptive analysis, and then the second analysis, the advanced analysis, using model panel data analysis with fixed effects. Okay, in this graph, I'm trying to plot the Gini ratio towards the local government budget. From the pattern here, all of us will get easily that the richer the provinces, the higher the Gini ratio. Gini ratio means the inequality between the poor and the rich, like Professor Ferdi Hadis said earlier. Here. Okay, next. And then, do the richer local government spend more on the social program? In here, I plot the percentage of local government budget for social assistance towards local government budget, and we can say that here that the more local government budget increase, they spend more on the government social assistance budget. Next is by looking at the portion of social spending in the government budget towards Gini ratio. When the local government has higher portion on social assistance expenditure, their inequality tends to be lower. Okay. But wait, there is only one anomaly province in Indonesia. Yes, that is Jakarta, because the percentage of social spending to the total budget is really high, but at the same time the Gini ratio is also high, so it's anomaly. Okay, thanks. And then from this graph, what we want to see is, do more unequal local governments redistribute more? This is different with previous charts. I plot the Gini ratio change in point with the government social spending proportion change from 2012 to 2016. What we wanted to what we expect from the province is below the x-axis. Okay, it means whatever the government spending is, they can decrease the inequality. Okay, but we don't expect in that, okay, in the red area, because it means if the province located on that area, by increasing their government spending, the inequality also increase. So it is not clear with that. So for that province, I just suggest to call Robin Hood. Is the result. What we need to focus is on the coefficient of variable, or the cluster program has a negative coefficient, and then economic growth also a negative coefficient. It means increasing in their points will decrease in the Gini ratio, and not for population and inflation. They have positive coefficient. From the model, we can conclude three conclusions. Maybe you can read by yourself. So it will, the result amplify the point of view I mentioned earlier, that between government spending, social spending has negative correlation with the inequality, and then the cluster one, if we can go back to the previous result, has the biggest coefficient. That means cluster one has the biggest impact to reduce the inequality. And although the control variables are not significant in the model, but population size and inflation promote the inequality, and economic growth decrease the inequality. At last, before finishing this presentation, I would like to mention Bernie Sanders' quote. A nation will not survive morally or economically when so few have so much, while so many have so little. Okay, that's all. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much.